Oh, hey. Didn't see you there. I see you've made it out to episode 4 with Boudreezy and Colt 45 for our brand new episode of the Weekly Puck Off. You ventured into a dark abyss not known to many, although the few who are a part of this program are sure to enjoy themselves, if you know what I mean. So come slide and slither into our dark cavern that we like to call the Weekly Puck Off.
Ooh.
Fire up the headphones, bitches! Woo!
That was great.
Oh, that kind of destroyed the... Oh.
I hope Tom didn't hear that.
Yeah, that was really loud.
I think the entire office heard that.
Oh my god. There's a lot of red bars there. Anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in to episode 4 of the Weekly Puck Off, brought to you by Colt 45 and Boudreezy.
Yes, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Glad to be with you.
What we lack in structure, organization, and, just generally keeping ourselves together, we make up for in exciting new intros.
Passion and intensity.
Speaking of excitement, there were quite a few good games last night in the NHL.
Oh, there certainly were.
We're bringing this one to you on a Friday. Typically we record on Wednesdays. However, last week we realized midway through our pod that we did not plug in the mic. So we're going to redo the whole thing from scratch. An early nomination for You Blew It. Yeah. But anyway,
back to last night's
the
action.
games. There were lots of good games. Steve,
there certainly were.
Give us a brief little recap.
Well, near and dear to my heart, of course, my beloved Canucks 4-1 over St. Louis. Let's hear it for them. Ryan Miller redeeming himself against his former team. Things did not go so well for him last year with St. Louis, but between the pipes of the Canucks last night, they beat St. Louis 4-1. How about Nashville?
Still looking strong.
Absolutely.
Continuing to prove wrong the haters.
They beat Chicago last night 3-2, so that was somewhat unexpected. Calgary. Let's hear it for Calgary. Let's hear it for the Canadian teams.
Look at them go.
Teams coming around.
You're kind of shaking the table there.
Oh, sorry.
5-0 over Carolina. Jonas Hiller with the shutout.
Great playing. Speaking of shutouts, Minnesota also pulled off the shutout against Arizona.
Against the Coyotes.
And with the Minnesota and Calgary wins, I got my first Pro Line victory of the season.
Woo! Good job.
All right.
Proud of you.
How much money did you take down for that, Colton?
Brought down $50.
Attaboy.
You gotta start somewhere.
Attaboy.
My first win of the season, though.
Yeah.
Attaboy. So third shutout of the year for Darcy Kemper. Leading the league in shutouts, so that's impressive.
And he was a free agent pickup by most people who own him in their fantasy leagues because he wasn't a highly coveted draft choice.
Not at all.
Given the goaltending situation to start the season in Minnesota.
Look at him now.
Now he's the man.
Josh Harding who?
Josh Harding broken foot from kicking wall who?
From domestic dispute who?
Should I turn up this mic? It looks like we're trailing off after that yelling intro.
Bitch girlfriend.
Maybe it's spliced. It's spliced our.
A little late.
It's cutting down our audio.
Yeah, let's jack the volume here.
I'll just do a quick little amplitude increase.
Shutout for Quick last night. Speaking of shutouts,
yes.
LA beats Buffalo 2-0. Columbus 5-4 over San Jose. Islanders beat Boston 3-2, which I guess we'll get to a little bit later on. What with the Chara situation developing.
Yes.
But the game of the night, without question, had to be Detroit's thrilling come from behind 4-3 overtime victory over Pittsburgh, trailing 3-1 late in the third, and they come back and notch a huge victory over rival Pittsburgh.
Huge victory, and Pittsburgh controlled pretty well the entire game. I watched that one, sat down and watched it, which I usually have been hopping back and forth between games lately with my Game Center subscription.
Yes,
but I was taking that one in on TV and hopping around on the others on Game Center, and Pittsburgh looked extremely strong throughout, and then all of a sudden, Detroit strung together about 7 minutes of great hockey.
Did they ever come to life out of nowhere?
And right on cue, here's our first guest of the day. We've got Tack.
Round
of applause for Tack.
Thank you.
Here's our Detroit expert analyst, right on cue as we're rehashing the Detroit game from last night.
What a game.
Oh yeah, I was just saying how they strung together a great 7 or 8 minutes of hockey there, despite being outplayed badly in the first 2 to 2.5 periods.
Yeah, you got to be happy, and not only that, but not having to wear a Habs jersey today.
Yeah, that's a story we don't really need to get into too much.
A gentleman's wager there. I think you placed before the Montreal game had to wear the jersey because they lost in overtime to Montreal.
And now they're on the other side of the overtime comeback.
Yeah, so I'm feeling much better today.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, it was a struggle. It was hard to watch the earlier portions of the game. It was they just couldn't get their legs moving, it seemed. Pittsburgh had them on the ropes for most of the game, but geez, last 2 minutes and 39 seconds of the game, or of the third period anyway.
Did they ever come to life? That's Zetterberg. What a player.
That was he's a great player, and that was a nice play too. I think it was DeKaiser who actually passed him the puck to get him open like that, and zing, top corner.
Yeah.
And I guess the that's where you go if you want to score on Grice, top corner, on either shoulder. It doesn't matter, glove hand, blocker hand. You put it high, you probably get it in. Problem that the Wings, well, one of the other problems that they had, they weren't moving their legs like we were saying, but like it seems that every time they got a puck on net, it was always low. And Grice playing butterfly always had the bottom side taken, so they couldn't score.
So up they went, started top shelving, and
Up
they
they
get
went.
success.
Yeah.
Are you happy with the play of Datsuk so far? Do you think that he's back to the level that we're used to seeing? What did you think of him out there?
When I saw the Montreal game, I thought he was at the level that we were used to seeing. Last night, I thought he was missing a step or two.
Right.
His hands are fantastic.
Unbelievable.
He was knocking pucks out of the air. He was deking around people. That was great, but I think he's just he still has to catch up. He's a stride off.
Which is understandable. I mean, he's just coming back after a long layoff, so I'm sure he'll get back, to full speed. Hard not to be impressed though with some of the moves that the guy has. And I don't want to bring back a painful subject for you, the loss to Montreal, but the goal that he scored or didn't score because there was goaltender interference on the play due to Abdelkader. But what a goal!
Oh yeah, it was a great goal, and I'm of course biased, but I think the interference call was a little questionable as well.
Little borderline.
He didn't barge into Price or anything. I don't know if he kept Price from being able to make the save.
No, Price is famous for going out of his way to initiate contact to get those sorts of calls. He's done it 4 or 5 times over the past couple of years.
It's an art
And
form for him.
each time he does it, I disagree with the call, but I guess it's in the rule book, and if that's how they're calling it, he's taking advantage of that, and that's the commentators are always saying that's one of the things that makes him a great goalie is that he's so aware of his crease and he's able to use that rule to his advantage.
Yeah.
To get extra goalie interference calls.
Yeah.
And just to describe the goal for our listeners, if you haven't seen it, basically he stick handles in the Montreal zone, turns around, faces his own net, and then no look, backhands right into the top corner and beats Price. Very few players in the league could have pulled that off.
Oh no, and he was far away from the net too. He was I think it was just over the blue line.
Top
pretty
circle.
much. So yeah, it's a pretty amazing play. And the guy's a wizard. He's known as the Magic Man in most circles. And actually, if you get your iPhone out and you talk to Siri and you ask her who the Magic Man is, she will tell you it's Pavel Datsuk. No lie.
just like when you ask, show me a picture of God, and it shows Daniel Alfredson.
Connor, you should try that.
I
Right
don't know
now.
if
I
they
believe
still
that.
I don't know if that's legit.
No,
but
that was last year. I'm serious. That actually was a thing.
really.
Yeah, try it right now.
That's pretty cool.
This is great podcasting. Our listeners will enjoy this.
I don't think I've ever used Siri.
You got to turn her on. If you know what I mean.
I know how to do that.
You got to rub right here.
We'll do that.
So
later.
anyway, while Connor's working on that,
We have
take a few
4% left.
take a few minutes.
Now, Tack, you've been a lifelong Detroit fan. Why is that? Is it because you look almost identical to Chris Chelios?
No, well, that's the answer to your question is yes and no. No to the fact that I actually haven't been a lifelong Red Wings fan, but yes, because it does have to do with Chris Chelios. When I was growing up playing hockey, ball hockey with my buddies, I like to pattern my game after Chris Chelios. So I liked him when he was on the Blackhawks, and I was a Blackhawks fan then.
Right. Okay.
Got traded to the Red Wings, and when he moved over there, so did I.
Your allegiance switched.
So
over.
I've been a Wings fan since '99. So
Oh.
15 years. That's pretty decent.
And they've been in the playoffs for all of those years.
All those years. So it's
Every
gotta be
single
me.
one.
It's gotta be me.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's tack. It's all tack.
Okay. Well,
So, on the topic of huge Detroit fan, maybe while we have him in here, because you're a Canucks fan, I'm a Sens fan, maybe we can get a little more deep thoughts into how the Wings stand up to the competition this year. They're looking like they might emerge as a competitor. They haven't lost in regulation yet. After that dramatic comeback, they're still undefeated in regulation. What are some
They
things?
lost in regulation once.
Oh.
But it was a 1-goal game.
Oh,
was
they
that to
did.
Anaheim?
They
Yeah.
did.
That was to the Ducks.
Sorry, I blew it.
Good stats there, Colt. Good
Regardless,
stats applied.
regardless of that loss, though, they're looking good, and if they're able to stay healthy, what are your thoughts on them? Maybe even contending for the Eastern Conference this year. Aside from obviously Datsuk, Zetterberg, they're great. What do you think beyond that, depth-wise?
if you'd asked me before the season started if they could contend for the Eastern Conference title, or at least the Atlantic title even, I would have said no chance, because Boston just, I would have thought that they'd run away with it. Of course, they've started off a little bit slowly, so I still think Boston's going to recover, and they're going to be able to pull it off and probably break 100 points. I don't think they'd have much problem with that, but I think Detroit's got a decent shot of ending up second in that division, second, maybe third.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not saying they will.
It's
I'm
not-
saying
it's
that
not
they've got a
unreasonable.
shot. Like, a lot of things have to go well. First of all, they've got to stay healthy, and Franzen's not healthy right now. He's hardly ever healthy, so that's that's a big if.
He's supposed to be back next
Pass-
week, though, I
pass.
think. Just a groin injury, so I don't think he's supposed to miss a lot of time. He'll be back
No,
soon.
but it's not just the
Not
groin.
yet.
Like
It's
he's got
recurring.
all things wrong with him. Like if he come back on the ice and in that game he'll injure his shoulder. It's just he's a pretty fragile player.
Band-Aid.
Yeah,
Much like Datsuk.
yeah, Datsuk too. But jeez,
Yeah.
man, he's awesome.
I don't know if Boston is going to bounce back necessarily the way that you say. They got some problems at right wing right now, for instance, that they're trying to fill.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys heard the rumor where they're trying to get Chris Stewart off of Buffalo or not, but they got some real problems there at right wing.
Yeah, it's and I did hear that about Stewart. I think Stewart can really help that team. He's been awful this year so far. I shouldn't say it's just him, but it's the Sabres. They haven't been able to score.
Yeah.
What is it, like the past 4 games?
Yeah,
They've been shut out 3 times.
He's just a part of a garbage organization. It's tough to score.
Exactly.
It's tough for anybody to score on that team.
Yeah,
just
I
that's
don't care who
standard.
you are. You could put Crosby on that team, and he'd probably have trouble getting 100 points.
He'd still
Yeah.
do it though.
he probably would. But
They wouldn't be garbage anymore. Then they draft McDavid.
They'd make the playoffs.
yeah. But Stewart, I think, could help Boston if they could swing that. I don't know how much Buffalo's going to be asking for him, but I don't think it would cost too much to get him because, this year hasn't done really well. Last year when he was with St. Louis, St. Louis doesn't score very much either, so
No.
he wasn't doing very well offensively there. It's been a couple of years, since he's had a really good season with Colorado, so they can get him probably low. I think he'd help that team. And yeah, the right wing, they're a little bit shy on that, but everything else, they're looking pretty good.
Yeah, I think they're just off to a slow start. I'd have to agree. Their team's too solid. I think we mentioned this a couple pods ago, how I think their team's just too solid to not be a legitimate contender.
You would think, but now the Chera thing really hurts them.
Yes, it does.
Big time.
4 to 6 weeks he's going to be out.
Well, we'll see
That's
how
big.
Yeah, definitely, but we'll see how important Torrey Krug is.
Here's the move that I think Boston makes. They go to Edmonton, they get Eberle, and they give up Chris Kelly and Mark Bartkowski.
That's not enough for Eberle. The Oilers would never agree to that.
Well, that was the rumor that was also percolating around the league, and I think that was back before Edmonton kind of began their, we could call it mini resurgence, where they won 2 in a row. People were categorizing the Oilers with Carolina, that they're going to start rebuilding soon. I guess that would be a little undervalued for Eberle.
I would think so.
Rebuild.
The thing that I
Yeah.
find when people are talking about Edmonton having to rebuild, they're really not, like, despite the fact that they do awful consistently, they're not that far from having a competing team.
Not at all.
They're only missing a couple pieces, so they don't want to go trading. I would say Eberle's their second best player, aside from Taylor Hall. They don't need to go trading him for a couple of role players when they could be getting someone really good in return for a guy like Yakupov, or even if they do trade Eberle, maybe get a first rounder and a couple of guys who can already fulfill the top 6 role,
Completely.
as opposed to just getting a couple of bruisers from the Bruins.
Completely. I think the thought was, Edmonton has this problem where nobody sticks up for each other and, they don't bring it physically. And it's not like teams kind of go, oh, man, we got to play at Rexall tonight. Geez, this is going to be tough. Teams are like, oh, yeah, we get to go to Rexall tonight.
Yeah, it's almost like...
It's like a spa. We get to go to a day spa.
It's like the whole city of Edmonton. I think, Tack, we were talking about this the other day in the office. The whole city of Edmonton and the players' franchise just sort of has a losing mindset, and they go out there, they just expect to lose, and they have this mindset that, we'll bring it around eventually, and no one goes out there playing hard expecting to win, and that's just become the norm, and no one thinks anything differently of it now. So it's almost like they have to just do something to shake up, whether it's management, the coach, the players, just even something small that'll completely change the dynamic of the team, and that might be enough to spark them and maybe bring that belief that they have a chance to win.
And confidence is such a transient thing, and when you don't have it, it's so elusive. But if you start to get it, then it can really pick up momentum, gather its own momentum, and then suddenly you have confidence, and suddenly you're winning. maybe they're starting to achieve that now. Nugent Hopkins is playing really well.
Yeah.
Like,
He sure is.
think of Taylor Hall before that penalty shot there. To think back to their win against Washington, where he raises the roof.
Yeah.
Then he
that
scores
was
on a
awesome to
penalty
see,
shot.
too.
That was great.
Get the fans riled up, give them something to cheer about. They hadn't won a game since then. Get the fans on their feet. He scores the goal.
Scores the
Place goes
goal.
nuts.
That's the kind of enthusiasm that they need. So.
And speaking of getting fans ramped up and excited about teams winning, how about the Ducks?
The only team to beat Detroit in regulation, yeah.
Yeah.
Looking like perhaps maybe one of the two best teams in the West right now.
Right now, yeah. End of the season, I don't think so. There are a few reasons why I think that they're not gonna win the division or the conference, but those reasons are Chicago Blackhawks, LA Kings. I don't think they're better than those teams.
Extremely tough division.
Yeah.
Very
Although
tough.
Anaheim is an exceptional team, but I'd have to agree that both Chicago and LA have a bit more depth, and they both also have a bona fide starting goalie who's able to steal some games for them.
Yeah.
Quick more so than Crawford, but with the whole Anderson, Gibson going to the minors for a bit, now he's back up. You don't really know who's the number one guy. It's nice for the players to have that one guy they can count on to get them through the regular season and continue playing well into the playoffs. And the Ducks don't quite have that. Having said that, they are an exceptional team, an obvious contender to make it deep into the playoffs if they are playing as well as they are now. But yeah, I think I'd have to agree that the Kings would be. I think the Kings are the front runner in that division for this season.
Well, I think LA has a couple of problems that they're facing right now, though. And speaking of Anaheim, Anderson is playing well for them right now. He's kind of, it's early in the season too, of course we have to point out, but he's taken the starting role and he's kind of run with it. In fact, he just set the record he won 25 of his first 30 games as a starter,
Wow.
which actually sets an NHL record. Ties him with some obscure New York Islanders goaltender from back in the 70s whose name escapes me, so maybe not the most prestigious record in the world, but he has looked good so far.
Yeah, and I seem to remember something similar like that with Victor Fast when he was back on the team. I don't know if it was last year or the year before. He went like 10 games before he lost when he started.
Yeah,
as a rookie.
that's right.
So who knows? It might be an Anaheim thing.
And Anaheim's defense is solid, and to me, one of the most underrated players in the league has got to be Beauchemin. That guy is a rock. He is an anchor. Doesn't score a whole lot, so from a fantasy perspective, he's not worth getting. But as far as tying the defensive unit together, great stay-at-home shutdown defenseman, he fits the description. He's a physical presence out there too. He's good in front of the net, and they have been able to build a solid core around him. Now they got young guys like, your guy there, Vatanen.
Sammy Vatanen.
Sammy Vatanen, he's impressive.
Power play quarterback.
Hampus Lindholm is really good. Cam Fowler is another guy.
Yeah.
So they've been able to build up these young players, and it's someone like Beauchemin, that veteran presence who's been around forever and is still good, that I think has kind of enabled them to do that. So when you have that type of a solid defense, really kind of helps with the goaltending, obviously. So, Corey Crawford in Chicago, for instance, doesn't need to be a Vezina Trophy winner in order for Chicago to win a cup. And I think maybe Anaheim fits that description too. Then in Ryan Kesler, they finally get that second line center that they've been looking for. So they're no longer just this one line team that they've been in the past.
And exactly, even with that one line, even if the defense does have a couple blunders in a game, you don't really have to worry too much about Getzlaf and Perry being able to put the puck in the net.
Mm-hmm.
The pressure isn't on them as much, yes.
Yeah, two question marks that I have on Anaheim. One being the goaltenders, like Colt 45 was saying. Neither of these guys has been a starting goaltender in the NHL, so we don't know if they can actually carry the load, either of them, and we don't know how durable either of them are either. So
right.
Goaltending, I think, is a big question mark. Another thing too is left wing. I say very weak on the left wing.
They're thin.
So they've got on the top line playing with Getzlaf and Perry. They got Devontae Pelly Smith. Who? Yeah, that's my point. And on the second
good
line,
grinder. Yeah, not a bad grinder.
He is a pretty solid player. He fits in well with them, but he's nowhere near the caliber of those two.
Yeah, he's not a star.
They've got Danny Heatley on injured reserve. They were planning on sticking him in there, but I don't know if Smith Pelly keeps playing well. I don't know. Do you think Heatley will go back up there?
I think they might try it, see how it goes.
Okay.
But we don't know what Heatley's going to do.
He's a big question mark.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was your second question mark? Or was it?
No, the first one was goaltending. Second question mark was left wing.
I lost count after one.
I don't know if Heatley will be able to. Like normally, you'd think anybody they put on the top line with Perry and Getzlaf, they're going to score.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't know if he can keep up with them.
Right. Well,
Can
it'll be
he
interesting to
return
see
to
how
that
that works out
07
because I'm sure
form?
they'll try it. Yeah.
Can he? But man, since he was traded from Ottawa,
It's
like
been all
that-
downhill.
that-
After you leave a franchise of that caliber, it really is hard to regain your form you once had. He's probably just had a crushed confidence, probably exhibiting some signs of depression after not being able to play with Alfredson and Spezza, the two biggest studs in NHL history.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my goodness.
I think we.
Disclaimer.
yeah, okay, move on.
Yeah. Anyway, I think Heatley might be a bit of a dark horse this year.
Could be.
Still injured, but
I think if he gets to stay on that
Excuse
top line, yes. Otherwise, if they relegate him to line 3, then I certainly wouldn't pick him up on my beloved Kill Basic That's Laughs, which is the name of my fantasy team. So, speaking of LA, which we kind of alluded to earlier, I think LA is in danger of falling back a bit this year. The whole Voinov thing, which do we have an update there, Connor? Producer Connor, right here.
They're following up the investigation before they lay charges.
His lawyer says that Voinov didn't do it, or was it his lawyer or his agent?
His
I know
lawyer, yeah.
Somebody's saying he didn't do it.
His lawyer says it's
somebody
just
on
a-
his side
Yeah.
said that it wasn't as bad as the media made it out to be.
But he is suspended indefinitely from the NHL.
Right.
No number yet, but
So we really don't know if he's going to be back anytime soon or not. And of course, his lawyer is going to say he didn't do it. I mean, what's his lawyer going to say? Yeah, he beat her half to death, and
Yeah.
the guy should be in jail. No, so
Yeah.
we really don't know if he's going to be back or not. LA is 5-1-1, I think, right now. So a good solid record, but outside of that '70s line, who have been great so
Yeah,
far,
yeah.
Tanner Pearson, Jeff Carter, and Tyler Toffoli. I know it's Toffoli.
Classic scene.
Tyler Toffoli, no one else on that team is scoring. Look at Kopitar so far. I think 2 points.
He put one in the net last night.
He did. Okay, so up to 3 points now.
Yeah, he'll heat up.
Yeah, and once
He's-
Gaborik gets back
he's
too,
too good. Yeah, Gaborik will help
that
him a
line's
lot.
it's gonna be good. And Williams, I think, plays with those guys, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So they'll be fine.
So far, they've been winning a lot of games because of Quick. Those games against St. Louis and Minnesota, where they both got outshot drastically, those were all Quick.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind though, Voinov out is certainly going to hurt them, but Muzzin's on his way back.
That's right.
Muzzin was a stud last year in the playoffs,
Yeah.
instrumental in their cup win, and he has the best Corsi stats in the entire NHL.
Supposedly, yeah. That's
Puck possession is huge these days. The fancy stats are really becoming relevant, and him playing with Doughty, those two are going to be a force.
lethal.
Oh, yeah.
But LA's depth on defense is so great. They're so deep. I don't think they have a problem with Voinov.
Yeah.
I don't think they miss him at
They'll
all.
be able to.
That they're
Well,
going to keep going.
they'll miss him, but they'll be able to pull their socks up and they'll manage.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully for LA's sake, that's true. I maybe see a bit of a regression there, but we'll see.
Time will tell.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I think TAC has people to see, places to be here.
Yeah, I've actually. I do. I got a text from.
There, jeez.
Yeah, it's from Glenn Holland. Actually, we're gonna have a talk. I'm gonna try to get him to trade whatever he can to get Tyler Myers from the Sabres.
Okay.
The
Ooh.
asking price is high. I heard that the Sabres want Nyquist, and
Ooh.
well, they're asking for Nyquist or Yurko, and I shake my head and laugh at that. But I'm going to try to get Ken Holland to see if he can throw Thomas Tatar in there,
Yeah.
and I think they can swing a deal with that.
Tatar a little more realistic than Nyquist. You're not going to give up Nyquist, that's for sure.
No, not a chance.
Anyway, see what you can do with that. Use your
Well,
connections.
I'll give it a go.
Hey,
Hey,
I'm,
guys.
I'm Chris Chelios. You listen to me.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks so much.
So
This
it's a
has been
pleasure.
our first ever segment of TAC Attack. We'd love to have him back for more, so let's give him a hand. He did great.
Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Love your show.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much. Big
buddy.
fan. You're one of 3 subscribers.
Thanks, Tack.
Speaking of subscribers, if you
Wicked.
do want to tune in for more of this great podcasting, you can follow us on Twitter at weeklypuckoff. Send us emails to weeklypuckoff@gmail.com with any viewer questions you may have. And we're almost on iTunes. Word has it that none of us have the technological know-how to get us up there, but I have someone who can. I have
He knows
connections.
a guy.
That is exciting.
I've got a guy, so he's working on that. He's recently moved out into a new place, so once he gets settled, I'll start hassling him to get us on there. In the meantime, you can definitely check out our channel on YouTube, which is The Weekly Puck Off. Subscribe on there for more podcasts.
Do it.
Anyway,
won't regret
where
it.
does that? I thought that went really well.
I thought that was
that was
great.
a good segment.
No, yeah.
A
That was a good analysis by
good
Tack.
segment.
Yeah. He knows his stuff.
Really brings a lot to the
That
table.
was a smart
Yeah.
guy.
I think we should replace producer Connor with him.
Go for it. Go for it. I dare you.
Best hair in broadcasting.
Yeah.
It is immaculate.
You wish you could see this hair through the mic.
This is where we really need some soundboards.
Yeah.
We
Oh, nice. It's still linked.
Good for you.
I love that.
All right, so just a little interlude music as we move into topic 2.
So,
What do
yeah.
we
Fleury.
got next here, boys?
Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yes,
Fleury, yeah,
we were
okay.
on the topic of Detroit pulling off the big win against Pittsburgh last night. I know Fleury wasn't in the net, but
Probably a good thing.
on the topic of Pittsburgh goalies not being the most dependable,
Yeah.
Fleury more so in the playoffs. He's generally pretty consistent in the regular season, puts up good regular season stats. He's set to have his contract either extended or
Free agent at the end
or
of the
canceled,
season.
basically.
Either or. Pittsburgh's got a decision to make.
And the question is, that's been circulating around much of the league, talk shows, etc. Is he worth it? Is he worth signing long term? Because Fleury's going to be looking for a long term deal.
No. I'll say that.
He's going to be looking for similar pay to what he's getting now because his regular season numbers do support that he's worth the $5 million he's getting. He is right around there, right? $5 million.
Right around there.
They had
Yeah.
him around 5, yeah. And
One would think you would have to re-sign him for something similar to
if
that.
I may say something,
You may.
I think Fleury would be a lot more valuable if he could play the puck, if he could handle the puck. Like, he fucking sucks at
he
that.
really,
So
he
accident
really
prone.
does blow it when it comes to
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Do you remember that goal? Can you even call it a goal from the World Juniors
Yeah.
that year, where he
He's done
Oh,
that. He's done
yeah.
that many a time, just giving up the puck.
such a track record.
Yeah, he needs to.
I'm just in the middle of a fact check here, bringing up
He's
some,
like-
some
he's-
goalie salaries that we can compare
He's
his
got to
to.
study Pricey's game. Pricey's so good at that. Playing
I just don't
he's
know
More,
if he-
he's more accident prone than Angie, our coworker, when she goes out to a bar.
Jesus Christ.
Actually, what I heard about Fleury is that they've been getting him some sports psychologist work done with him
Oh wow.
to see if his mental game is where it
Yeah.
needs to be, and they almost think that's why he consistently chokes in the playoffs.
Well, that really doesn't surprise me. And the funny thing about him is he's actually won a cup before, so you wouldn't think that it would be as much of an issue. International pedigree as well. Made it to an Olympic team before. Was he not the third stringer back in 2010? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Yeah.
didn't play, so maybe
He
that
was on the
doesn't
team.
count.
Well,
He got the-
he still has a gold
He
medal.
got the medal.
He gets the medal.
You know what makes me laugh about Fleury is he's got like the opposite of a cleft lip.
I've never noticed that.
He's got
Yeah.
it's like the biggest dip in
It
the
goes
middle
up.
of his.
Yeah, like
It's
Yeah.
It's like
What
his
is-
lip was dripping when he was born.
Oh,
yeah.
maybe
it's like it got gradually melted and then solidified before it completely tore through.
Yeah.
maybe it gets in the way. Maybe that's his problem.
I don't-
Maybe
yeah.
he needs to get
Maybe
lip
that's
surgery.
why he goes to the psychologist.
They need to teach him how to keep a stiff upper lip.
Oh, that was cheesy.
Wow.
Oh.
Anyway, I have a list of the top 10 goalie salaries from last season.
Go on.
Let's just see if we can compare Fleury and see if you'd place him right around where he should be.
Go
Okay.
on.
His current salary is actually $5.75 million.
Wow.
The number one highest paid goalie is Pekka Rinne, coming in at $7 million.
Rene's the highest.
Yes.
Surprising.
And this is according to therichest.com. So
I don't
don't
know.
hold it against me if this website isn't accurate. And it doesn't actually specify if this is their cap hit, like an average salary per year, or if this is what they made last season. But I'd have to assume it's the cap hit. Okay. Here we go. Number 2, Jonathan Quick,
Makes sense.
$7 million.
Okay.
Number 3, Roberto Luongo, 6.714.
Jeez.
That was a disaster of a contract.
Under that ginormous
Speaking
contract,
of even
yeah.
worse contracts, Cam Ward comes in at $6.6 million.
Cam Ward is fourth.
And he is probably among the worst
What?
goaltenders in the NHL right now.
Is that
contract
current?
has to be up
This,
soon,
this was
huh?
as of last year.
My goodness.
I wonder when his contract
That
is.
is
He signed a $37.8 million contract for 6 years with the Hurricanes from 2010 to 2016.
Well, where does Henrik Lundqvist and Carey Price fit into that?
Yeah.
Get ready. Ryan Miller at 6.25. Number 6 is Kari Lettinen at 6.25. Tuukka Rask comes in at 7th with $6 million. Fleury, number 8 with $5.75 million. So he's right around the same price point as Tuukka Rask. And right after him comes Carey Price, also making $5.75. So I would say Fleury is not
I'd say
Price or Rask caliber.
Fleury's more of a 4 mil type goalie.
Jimmy Howard comes in at 5.5. I think you can probably compare Fleury to Howard. That's probably a pretty more easily comparable target right there.
I think that's the ideal comparison.
My question
Two
is,
goalies that can get it done in the regular season,
Where's
but
Lundqvist?
consistency an issue.
where's Lundqvist? King Henrik doesn't even crack the top 10.
That can't be.
He's making under 5.5.
That just can't be.
I
He's
know.
the best goaltender in the NHL.
So if you're looking
No,
at
he's
that,
not.
if Henrik's making less
Who do you
than
think is the
Fleury,
best?
Price. He's the best goalie in the world.
Putting Price top the top spot to Price.
Oh yeah.
I think it's tough to pick one guy because you really have to base it on what team they play for, too.
I think I just based it on
if you had
overall
Price,
skills. Like, he's the best goalie.
Price
he
is
an
good, and
exceptional
I would put
goalie.
him in the top 3.
Certainly
You look
top
at-
3. I think the top 3 is take your pick between any of the 4 of Lundqvist, Price, Rask, and Quick. Those
Yeah.
would be the top 4. Quick would probably be, as much as I love the guy, he's my favorite goalie, I think he'd come in 4th just because his stats aren't as exceptional as the others, and a lot of his winning is just because he's a clutch performer in those big games.
It's so
But
true.
if you're looking for a consistent performer night in, night out, you're looking for Rask, Price, and Lundqvist.
Absolutely.
Would be the big 3.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And for me, it would have to be Lundqvist. Lundqvist, one of these guys, you can't always look at his stats early in the season, but he gathers momentum as the season progresses, and by the end of the year, he's almost unbeatable.
Just on fire.
I mean, would the Rangers have made it to the conference final, or to the Stanley Cup final, sorry, if it wasn't for Lundqvist? Not in a million years.
My list goes Price, Quick, Lundqvist, Rask. That's mine. That's just me, though. That's just me.
Yeah, so you take your pick of the top 4. Some might even throw Crawford in there. I think he feeds off an exceptional team, similar
Yeah.
to the way Quick does, but Quick has also proven that he's clutch when it matters in the playoffs. Anyway, we're getting a bit off topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, the question is, where do we rate? Where do we rate Fleury?
Regardless of those top 4 or 5, Fleury is not in that caliber of goalies. I'd say he's a second-tier goalie at this point. He doesn't match up well with those guys. Everybody knows it. The Pittsburgh Penguins probably know it at this point. They've made it to the playoffs with an exceptional offensive roster, and consistently year in and year out, Fleury doesn't come through for them in the playoffs. So is he worth the 5.75 he's making? Is he worth as much as Tuukka Rask? I say absolutely not.
The frustrating thing about Fleury is, at times, he can look so good. Just dominating.
Yeah.
Like, he can win a game for you.
But you need him to be able to...
He can also lose a game for
You'd
you.
rather a goalie keep you in a game night in and night out than steal a game one night and let in 5 the next.
And that's his problem.
You need consistency out of your number 1 goalie.
And that's been Pittsburgh's problem for so long. They don't know what they're going to get in the playoffs. Is he going to win this game for us, or is he going to lose this game for us? Like I said, someone like Quick, you know what you're going to get. If he's going to let in 3 or 4, chances are the other team is going to really have to earn those 3 or 4. Fleury lets in 3 or 4, maybe 4 or 5. Maybe half of those goals are soft sometimes, and that deflates a team. Momentum is so big in the playoffs, and I've just seen it so many times where he has surrendered that momentum. But the other question is, what's their option? If they decide not to sign him, then
That's
what do
the
they
thing.
do?
They don't have a solid number 2 option to go to in the meantime to rebuild their goalie
Who's your
situation.
backup?
They've got Grice,
I don't even know who that is.
who's a decent backup, but I don't think he's a guy that can take you 60 starts a year and really perform the way you need him to.
No
They'd
way.
almost have to. There's some guys out there. You've got Brizgalov out there, a bit of a risk. I'd say just as risky as Fleury.
If not more so.
You've got Brodeur hanging around, getting a little old. He'd maybe be only a 1-year solution.
I'd give him a chance.
If you can even call him a solution. Nothing against Brodeur, greatest goalie of all time. Debatably with Patrick Waugh.
Arguably.
I think Brodeur is the number 1 of all time, but at this point in his career, I wouldn't put him in the top 8.
His save percentage over the last 2 seasons with New Jersey was right around 90, which is actually not very good. So I really don't think he's an option.
Him.
Greatly outperformed him.
And that's
It
why
wasn't even close,
New
really.
Jersey is, right when you thought their goaltending was getting a bit depleted, with Brodeur ready to age out, they made that trade with Vancouver in the early stages of the entry draft a couple of years back and got Schneider, and that's proving to be a huge trade for them.
Schneider's underrated.
Schneider is coming into his own now as one of the best goalies in the NHL.
Absolutely. I 100% think you're right. He is one of the best goalies in the NHL. Might even crack the top 10. So, what do they do? Do they make a trade for somebody? Then who do you give up? They're really not that deep. They got 2 great lines, but they're not going to give up Hornquist. They're certainly not going to they're not going to give up Malkin or Crosby.
What about a guy like Kunitz? Getting a little bit up there in years, you think they could trade him for a young goalie? Maybe get a draft pick as well?
Yeah.
Crosby likes Kunitz, so I don't know if he would go for that. And you got to keep Crosby happy, right?
Crosby is the man.
Certainly.
Probably a defenseman, I think, if you're going to give up anybody. But
The last thing they need to do is make their defense worse, though. They've got one of the worst defense lineups in the Eastern Conference defensively. good offensive defensemen, great fantasy defensemen, but stay-at-home defense, they don't really have much in the way of that.
They don't excel at it. It's
So
something that's been a bit of an issue too.
They're in a bit of a pickle, for lack of a better term.
So I think maybe what it boils down to is talk about Fleury all we want. Is he worthy or not worthy of getting a contract? Maybe Pittsburgh's just in this position where they have no other choice. If that's the case, then Rutherford may as well say, this is our guy. He's our goaltender for the next 5 years, and try and instill some confidence, which is obviously a bit of an issue with him anyways, his psyche. Try to bolster his confidence and say, let's just stick with them. Because it just seems to have no other choice.
It almost seems like that is their best option. Like, you can talk about Fleury all you want and say that they could do better, but can they do better without giving up too much?
I don't think they can.
As much as he is inconsistent, he's still one of the top 10 goalies in the NHL. He certainly doesn't fall outside that top 10.
No.
Fleury?
Especially with the offensive talent in front of him, he can give up 3 or 4 goals on some nights where he doesn't have a great game and still win.
I think he compares to Howard, like you said earlier. I thought that was the perfect comparison. Very similar skill level, very similar at times inconsistencies. So I think Pittsburgh's going to roll with them, and we'll see how that goes. Let's talk about Nashville. How about the Nashville Predators?
Now, there's a great goalie, Pekka Rinne.
How about them?
Pekka Rinne has been playing exceptional. That number one line with Forsberg, Neal, and Ribeiro firing, they've really come together as a unit.
What a surprise that was. Nobody talked about them in the offseason.
Offseason, yeah. Steve has been on these guys since the year started. He was impressed by this line.
Absolutely.
I didn't have faith at first, but they're proving me wrong day in, day out. Lighting it up last night was Neal with a hat trick.
They're surprising a lot of people, and James Neal finally heating up. So there they were. They were 4-0-2 with Neal having scored like once all year. Did he even have a goal yet? I don't think he had even scored up until that point in the season. Finally gets his hat trick last night. Talking about Rinne, he had a terrible season last year, but was dealing with his injury issues. Finally came back.
Missed several months due to injury, and by the time he came back, Nashville was really out of the playoff picture.
They were done. So, but dating back to the World Hockey Championships there in May, where he was the MVP of that tournament, ever since then, he has been the Pekka Rinne of old. And with it, Nashville's chances sky high.
Yeah, they're looking like a serious contender, especially taking down a team like Chicago last night.
That surprised a lot of people. It kind of surprised me too, but it proves, I think, that Nashville is for real. New coach too, Peter Laviolette, is a more offensive-minded guy, and I think that's a key factor because speaking of Forsberg is this highly touted rookie that for the past 2 seasons wasn't able to break in with the Predators. He kept getting sent back down to Milwaukee, their AHL team, but didn't really gel with Trotz, it seemed, and wasn't really maybe met for a defensive system.
Yeah, it wasn't really tailored to his style of play because he's an exceptional offensive player, and he's proving that this year under a different coaching system.
He is proving that. He has, 7 points now in 7 games, and he's a +9.
And he's a rookie. He's probably going to be one of the nominees for the Rookie of the Year but come the end of the season.
Him, along with Tanner Pearson and Jonathan Drouin, I guess, are your leading candidates.
And perhaps Severson, if he continues to keep playing well.
Ekblad's a candidate too. The problem with Ekblad is he plays for such a shit team.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he'd really have to light it up to turn some heads to Florida.
Yeah.
Would really have to. And then how about Ribeiro?
Yeah, very underrated player.
A free agent signing that, again, no one really talked about, but now look at him.
Yeah, and I think maybe Mike Fisher getting injured might have been a blessing in disguise to the Predators because now they realize that Ribeiro is the man.
I think it really was.
He might maintain that number one line status even when Fisher comes back.
It compelled them to get Ribeiro. It also compelled them to get Derek Roy, which obviously Derek Roy is not the player that he used to be, but he can still score
Still
some.
a good depth player.
They also have Craig Smith, who is another guy who gets overlooked. People don't realize that he scored over 50 points last year, and he's on their second line with Derek Roy. So they're not just a one-line team. That one line has been playing really well, though. Jokinen and, Jarnkrok is another young guy that they got over from Detroit, actually, who might emerge at some point during the season. Hasn't yet. But they have some surprising depth. They have the best defenseman in hockey, in my opinion, Shea Weber. So they actually have a lot of things going for them.
Yeah, and they're one of those teams that no one really paid any attention to until they started playing well. Not a huge fan base in Nashville, but now people are starting to look at them as a serious contender in the West.
Absolutely. So if a team like St. Louis, let's say, or LA, which I kind of think might regress a little bit this year, certainly I think St. Louis is a candidate. They haven't looked that impressive so far. team like Nashville could slide right in there, and I think that there's a good chance that they make the playoffs this year.
Colorado struggling, of course. I could see Nashville taking their spot.
Colorado is shocking almost that they could be this bad, but there you go.
Yeah, so that's a really good analysis of Nashville. I'm quite surprised. You maybe not so much. I was kind of chirping when you used all those acquisitions on our waiver wire to get Forsberg and Ribeiro, but
to stock up the Kiel basic Getzlaffs.
It's sure paying dividends now.
I certainly haven't been at all sorry that I got Ribeiro and Forsberg.
Connor's got to stop shaking the table here. We're getting all these red bars every time he moves.
He's getting all excited because Calgary's actually good now.
Got a little excited.
Calgary's. I don't know if I go as far as good, but
Flames are heating up. They're heating up.
They certainly are, and I think you have to use the term good. They've been impressive. Are they gonna make the playoffs? I don't know, but they're certainly competitive.
They're a 2 to 3 line hockey team.
They're
now.
a competitor.
Certainly moving in the right direction.
Gaudreau's starting to step up. Hiller's playing well.
Jeez,
Monahan and Gaudreau, if they keep those two together like they had last night, they really had some chemistry there. It looked like.
I love Johnny Gaudreau.
Johnny Hockey.
Or Gaudreau, I should say. How big is he, Connor?
5'7", 150 pounds.
Minuscule.
Get real.
Smallest player in the league.
Get real.
By NHL standards.
They were showing the other small players in the league. Even the smallest one besides him was Briere, who weighed in at over 170.
He's smaller.
So
than
No, there's a smaller guy.
Oh really?
Kirby?
Gerby?
Gerby.
Okay, they didn't have him up on the list.
He's like 5'6" or something like that.
No, I'm talking weight.
Wait,
He's got to be smaller than that too, or not 150. I don't think, but
Regardless, this guy is basically the size of a 14-year-old.
yeah.
Pound for pound,
And he's out
maybe
there-
the best player in the league.
And he's yeah. If you go production per pound, he's exceptional. If your fantasy league counts total weight as
What do you guys think of the TJ Brody signing? Good move or bad move?
I like it.
I think time will tell on that one. It's a little early to be signing him for that kind of length. But having said that, he seems to really be gelling well with Giordano, who's kind of the man on defense for them.
Has been gelling well for a couple of years now, in fact.
And if you've got a guy like that that's playing great with Giordano, and you want to count on them being your number one pairing for the future, then I think it's a good deal. I would say assess it in 2 years, and then we'll figure out if they made a good deal. You can say that about any contract.
2 years, we'll have a pod about it.
At this point right now, I would say I like that they locked this guy up, and he adds a lot to their hockey club.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yes. 5 years, $23.25 million, 23 and a quarter. It equates to $4.65 a year. A lot of insiders are saying that if anything, they're underpaying this guy.
Ooh.
7 points so far this season in 9 games. He's a +5, and he and Giordano comprise one of the shutdown tandems in the league. One of the top shutdown tandems in the league, really.
They both put up quite a few points as fantasy players.
Which is, how can you get better? There's such a rare commodity, defenseman that can drive an offense and be responsible defensively.
Yeah,
you really don't see that many, and I think that's why Calgary really wanted to lock this guy up.
All right, so we're running a little short on time here. Do you want to get into our busts and surprises?
Sure. Should we do some quick injury updates here first?
Quickly fire through them. Let's name off 3 or 4.
Quick.
All right.
Eric Stahl was placed on IR.
That's right.
That's retroactive back to the 11th, so they can pretty well take him off whenever he's ready to play. I don't know if that really impacts his status on how he's feeling, but it strikes some concern to me as an Eric Stahl owner.
Mm-hmm.
Early November is the soonest that we can expect to see this guy, if he wants to come back at all. Because then you have to come back and play for Carolina. If he wants to do that.
He's just going to call it quits until they trade him.
Yeah, I'm done.
I give
I'll be
up.
on IR for the rest
You
of
guys
the year.
can
I'm
just,
done.
You guys can just screw up and get McDavid.
Yeah, I'll be up a raise. You guys sorted out. Paul Stastny was hit by Hansel and then Bodker from Arizona there last Saturday. He was week to week. Now he's day to day, so hopefully he's not out for too much longer.
Yeah.
St. Louis has not been good since he's been out of the lineup. And really, Colorado, since he left, haven't been very good either. So maybe we're finding out that Stastny is a real underrated player.
Perhaps.
Braden Coburn is going to be out for 4 weeks now. Philadelphia doesn't like that. Injured his foot blocking a shot against Boston in the season opener. Hasn't been back since. Grabowski for the Islanders is somebody that they miss. He got concussed in the big old hit that John Scott laid out on him.
They still pulled off the win against the Bruins last night, though, which is big for them.
That was big. And
another injury I can think of, Nathan Horton. That's sort of a really disappointing one to hear about with the debilitating, lumbar spine deteriorating disease or something?
Yeah, degenerative.
Yeah,
what a shame.
That's what I was looking for. Degenerative spine condition.
He's
So
29 years old, and he looks like he could
may
very well
never-
be done for good.
Yeah, really sad to hear that. Especially he was really hitting the peak of his career,
Yeah.
playing some great hockey. So we wish Horton all the best and hope he'll make it back. Everyone's thoughts are certainly with him as we watch these exciting NHL games.
Indeed.
Mm.
Indeed.
Mm.
And Ottawa, too, I guess we should say. Thoughts with everyone out there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was came as a big surprise to me on my way to work. Cop cars flying around. Oh, sorry, I'm thinking of the wrong shooter.
Yeah.
The wrong city.
Not only are we not in Ottawa, but geez, the whole city on lockdown. Actually, I met a former professor of mine on the ferry back to Dartmouth yesterday. We were chatting. Her daughter has recently moved to Ottawa, and they had her on lockdown. She was in a Second Cup coffee shop, having a drink, a coffee meeting over a nice Second Cup beverage of some sort.
Oh,
And
jeez.
they came in and told everybody to basically shut her down and get out, find somewhere safe. They brought them all to U of Ottawa campus,
Yeah.
shut them into some classroom, turned off all the lights, and told them not to say a word. They had to pretend that not a single person was there.
Jeez.
And that was for 3 hours, pitch black. Then they turned the lights on and they were still not allowed to leave just until everything was definitely secure. It was a total of 7 hours they were locked down in this campus.
Goodness.
Wow.
And the streets were all closed down, so she had to hitch a ride home with somebody because they wouldn't let anybody go unless they had a ride.
What a nightmare.
Jeez. And yeah, we had another shooter scare in Halifax, which I thought we were talking about for some reason when someone said Ottawa.
Mm.
Well, someone apparently saw someone with a rifle that had like a towel over it. It all turned out to be nothing. Although they did catch some guy, I guess, with a gun on a bus. So I
Yeah,
don't know
there
what
was a
happened
gun
there.
on the bus unrelated to the original call,
Which is so
kinda
odd.
scary. Yeah.
So
It
odd.
was a sawed-off shotgun. is
Our
what it
office was on lockdown here for the better part of a couple hours, I'd say.
One
Yeah.
thing I learned is that it sucks to be on lockdown at work because then you can't leave.
Yeah.
You're stuck at work.
That is pretty much the idea of a lockdown,
Yeah.
Steve.
Pretty much. Biggest bust.
And
Let's get to it.
Okay,
There
quickly
was one
here.
more injury that you missed.
Chara?
Callahan?
No, not Chara. Yeah, with the knee.
We're saving Chara.
Oh, sorry.
He's making a future
Steen.
category.
Alexander
Oh
Steen.
yeah.
Alexander Steen.
And on the
He,
topic of Steen, let's go right into biggest bust
Biggest
prediction of
dud.
the year. Biggest dud of the year.
Candidates for biggest dud of the year.
And this injury just further proves my prediction that Alex Steen is going to regress. There's no question he cannot sustain what he did last year. I think he'll be a good player, not an exceptional player like he emerged as last year. PDO stats were through the roof. He can't maintain that. He will have to regress. I would have said 50 points, but now that he's injured, maybe not even.
He's only day to day with a strained fallopian tube. No,
That sounds painful.
he's got the flu actually.
Okay, so assuming he only misses a couple games, I'd say he's good for about 50 points, provided he stays on that top line.
Yeah.
Maybe they start shaking lines up in St. Louis with them struggling. Maybe he's only good for 40 points.
Yeah.
Either way, he went quite early in a lot of leagues this year after he had
I
his
got him.
breakout season. Unfortunately, Connor, I think you might have blown it.
Well, you know,
There's
you
always
never
the
know.
waiver wire.
You never know. Maybe
I'm gonna hold on to him for a
maybe he
bit.
continues performing, but St. Louis as a whole hasn't looked great yet, and I don't expect Steen to either.
I went with Marian Gaborik. All throughout Gaborik's career, he has displayed this good year, bad year tendency. Now he's day to day as well with some sort of an unsubstantiated cut on his face that he suffered shaving. Some sort of lower body injury, I don't know. But, I think he is going to regress this year as well. And if his previous pattern holds true, then look for a drop off in production from him, and that could lead to LA not being quite the team that they were last year.
Maybe also with the 70s line playing so well, maybe Gaborik finds himself on the second line with Kopitar this year.
Maybe, and that would hurt his feelings.
Would
That
also
wouldn't be
be-
bad.
He's so
though.
temperamental.
Well,
Oh shit! I'm on a line with Kopitar.
no, I just mean he already plays with Kopitar, but maybe they see less ice time than the Carter
Oh,
line.
okay.
Yeah.
Gaborik is very
I'm not
sensitive.
saying Kopitar's not good. One of the best players in the world.
Gaborik is a very sensitive guy, so something like that could really offset him.
All right, so duds, we need to quickly get through our biggest stud prediction of the year. Steve, want to kick us off with a stud?
Biggest stud of the
Or
year?
su-
Well,
surprise stud.
surprise stud?
Not Crosby and Stamkos, but guys like Steve.
I'm gonna say Philip Forsberg.
That's it. You know, I was gonna say him. I should have known you were gonna pick him. Jeez. All right,
Well, he's right now. He is
you
on
keep
a
talking,
point
I'll
a
come up with
game,
another one.
a point a game pace.
Sagan.
But Sagan's not a surprise.
I
though.
think, but he's.
All right.
No one knew
So-
who Forsberg was at the
Yeah,
beginning of the
sure.
season.
Sagan
Everybody
was
knows who he
expected
is
to.
now.
Would Jason Spezza qualify?
No.
No.
They didn't expect him to be
Spence's
playing on the
household.
top unit. Okay, then I'm going to go with Jonathan Drouin.
Okay.
Yes.
Started off with the injured vagina. What was it? Broken vagina?
Broken vagina.
He's
Strained over
Fucking
now,
thumb.
he's now back playing on the star-studded Tampa Bay Lightning offense. Pretty hard not to score playing top 6 there, but with the talent this kid has, we've seen it firsthand in Halifax. I'm looking for him to win Rookie of the Year. 2 back-to-back Moosehead Rookie of the Years coming to you in a theater near you in the NHL.
I like it.
Jeez.
That's my surprise stud. So I guess that brings us to
Top cheddar.
top
you blew
cheddar. Or you blew it. Which one do you want to do first?
Well, you decide. I'm gonna compile some notes.
Which one do you want to do first? Since I blew it last week and forgot to plug the mic in, I guess I'll start off with you blew it.
Okay.
So my you blew it is Zdeno Chara. Lays out a huge hit on John Tavares of the Islanders. And who gets hurt? Chara gets hurt.
That big bastard.
Chara, a huge part of the Bruins bruiser squad. Big defensive presence. And he's out 4 to 6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks, yeah.
And that is just not only embarrassing, but you
yeah.
blew it.
So not only does he bust up his knee and doesn't play now for a couple months, now he has to be the subject of you blew it. That is cold-blooded.
Oh, geez. Steve?
You blew it would be Paul Maurice for dropping that F-bomb when he was asked about his team's struggles, and Blake Wheeler's little comment, which is sort of a bit of a backstab, when he said that it wasn't the players' responsibility to hold each other accountable, talking about the Winnipeg Jets here. And Maurice's response when he was asked about it by a reporter was, "I could make you cry in that fucking room."
Oh.
So,
Aggressive.
yeah, take it back a notch, Maurice. Everything will be okay. If you lose your job, you lose your job. Winnipeg's not that good anyways, so what do you expect? Top cheddar, Jordan Tutu. Just released a book entitled All the Way, My Life on the Ice. It's supposed to be really, really good. Jordan Tutu, speaking in Nashville, used to be their 4th-line guy. Now he plays for New Jersey and has led quite the life of drugs, debauchery, alcohol. Brother killed himself, which was tragic. Hails from Nunavut?
Iqaluit?
Iqaluit.
Somewhere up north.
Somewhere, yeah, something like that.
So what an unlikely story, him getting to the NHL in the first place. It's supposed to be a fascinating read.
Quite the
So,
grinder.
And a
Jordan
great
Tutu.
grinder, yeah. My top cheddar for the week is that exceptional comeback by the Detroit Red Wings last night against Pittsburgh. Man, that was a great game to watch. I'd say that will probably make the top 10 games of the year, looking back at the end of the regular season when they do their top moments. I'd expect to see that in there.
Good possibility. Detroit
emerging.
Montreal beating Detroit 2-1 in overtime was another one. I think it'd be up there.
And even that, having that happen and then rebounding to come back themselves by 2 goals against Pittsburgh, exceptional. Detroit looking like a contender, stud team, top cheddar for your performance against Pittsburgh last night. Bless you, producer.
Thank you.
All right, so I guess that brings us to the end of our schedule.
That's it.
Our schedule. If you'd like to hear more of this exceptional podcasting brought to you by Boudreezy and Colt 45, you can find us on Twitter at Weekly Puck Off. Email us at weeklypuckoff@gmail.com. iTunes will be coming to a theater near you ASAP. None of us are good enough to know how to do it, but as I mentioned earlier in the pod, I've got a buddy who's going to do it for us. And listen to this tune.
I'm gonna go grab some drinks with Voinov, War Machine, and Ray Rice. Later on,
that
boys.
sounds like a great time.
We're gonna go beat women.
Also, follow us or subscribe on YouTube. The Weekly Puck Off is our channel. This is episode 4. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody. Bye now.